magazine was like not that old. And I looked today, and it's from 2005. So my goodness. It's called Elizabeth Town. It's a Cameron Crowe movie. He wrote the movie Almost Famous. It was almost famous. It's got Orlando Bloom and eventually Kirsten Dunst. She's not in the scene that you guys see. It's kind of a rom-com, like, yeah, I love you too. But we're not going to watch that part. We're going to watch the part where young Drew Baylor, a young graduate like you guys, goes off to work, in this case for a corporation. And it's not Nike, but it looks a lot like Nike. It's called Mercury Worldwide Shoes. It has a CEO named Phil. Of course, you know the CEO for Nike is Phil Knight. Young Drew Baylor is going to go, and what you're going to see in the clip, in the beginning of the clip, is a semi-truck backing up. Beep, beep, beep. And what it is Drew has designed a shoe. They're designing a shoe for Nike, and it's a spectacular failure. It's losing all kinds of money, and so you're going to hear lots of conversation around that. And obviously, he's going in to have his final talk with his boss. But what I want you guys, we're going to talk about, what I want you guys to be looking for, think about Shine's leadership mechanisms. The things that a leader does and says that drives the culture within an organization. The other thing you're going to see, briefly, is something that it's sort of something dealing with something outside of the company itself. And it's either going to be corporate social responsibility or creating shared value. When you see it, think about the factors behind it and think about whether or not it's CSR or CSV. Now, I said there was a crisis. He's going to call it a fiasco. But you recognize that as one of the leadership mechanisms. And of course, attention, what a leader talks about. They'll say a lot of things. Phil says. And then after, we're actually going to hear from Phil himself. It's an actor you'll probably recognize. And what he says after the crisis is sort of different than before. So think about those things as we watch this clip. And I have now actually posted it on Canvas. So if you want to watch it again sometime, you certainly can. So here we go, about 10 minutes of the intro to the movie Elizabeth Town.
Welcome back, boys.
As somebody once said, there's a difference between a failure and a fiasco. But a fiasco is a disaster of mythic proportions. A fiasco is a folktale told to others that makes other people feel more alive because it didn't happen to them. I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'll take you to Phil so you don't get lost.
Mercury Worldwide Shoes, which is actually Phil, contains some of America's finest artists' masterworks, seen only by people heading for very important meetings, a promotion, or otherwise. We are not just employees, as Phil once said. We are denizens of greatness. Phil says the world is full of those who achieve through negativity or theft. We succeed through original thought. A shoe is not just a shoe. It connects us to the earth. The right shoe can transport us, make us believe we are capable of more.
But there are sacrifices for a goal like pure greatness, like birthdays or last Christmas with my family.
Take it, no makeup on my okay.
This must be okay.
Oh, Dad.
Though we sometimes celebrate odd things at Mercury, like the day the Italians invented rubber, which they didn't, of course, but that's beside the point.
Where exactly is Drew, anyway?
It was meant to approximate walking on a cloud.
Hey, if you ever need anything around here, I'm your girl.
Any true student of functional shoe design is also a student of Phil himself. He is a master, and Phil's innate wisdom of what people want and need has never failed to date. I'm fine. He's also obsessed with the number 2.
These are Phil's prized 2 Norman Rockwells, the pair of paintings that once hung outside the White House office of John F. Kennedy. And yes, the 2 treasured doors Phil once purchased from a church on vacation in Tunisia and had sent back home for a total cost too enormous to mention, $762,000 each.
Just 2 more minutes and I can send you in.
Because we have a moment here, let me tell you that I have recently become a secret connoisseur of last looks. You know the way people look at you when they believe it's for the last time? I've started collecting these looks. And
Okay, he's ready for you.
There's one right now.
How are you, Drew?
I wanted to jump out of the window of that helicopter and just splatter on the trees to tell you the truth.
Don't do that. It's only money. The American psyche is in turmoil, Drew, and we have miscalculated.
I'm sorry.
I have no rule book for this situation. They tell me that we are about to lose $972 million. I am ill-equipped in the philosophies of failure. Walk with me, Drew. My basketball team. They don't even know yet. My global environmental watchdog project will have to go. Sweet people. We could have saved the planet. But how do I make the concept of $972 million more real to you? It's the operating budget of a mid-sized country, small civilization. It's big. It's so big, you could round it off to $1 billion. I cry a lot lately. The promise of a global future, pinned to a groundbreaking shoe, your design, with a new form of material launched this week to great fanfare, and now meeting a growing international roar of laughter and rejection. Enough to cause this memo from Jeffrey Barlow, CEO of DCS. This once highly anticipated product may actually cause an entire generation to return to bare feet. Wow. We are about to enter a free-fall plunge. And the sound you hear is the sound of shit hitting the fan. Globally. Here.
I wish there was something I could do.
Actually, there is. In a room downstairs is a reporter from Global Business Today. We need to make him understand. We hired you for our National Scholarship Program. We supported, invested in your brilliance. This was a very creative endeavor. And I think you should stand up for your incredible work. You okay?
It's a little like knowing the plane's going down before anyone else, isn't it?
When does this run? A week?
A week. Come Sunday evening, I'll be on the stands. Any last words?
And in that moment, I knew
I know we hired you.
success. Success, not greatness, was the only God the entire world served.
All right, so I'm going to turn on the Zoom machine here. Here we are. So you're joining us watching the after party Zoom recording. We just watched, and it's been posted on Canvas, the intro clip to Elizabethtown, which is somewhat relevant in that it's about a young college graduate going to work for a big Fortune 500 company, designing this new shoe. And I think about the leader, the Alec Baldwin character, Phil. We're denizens of greatness, right? Creative thought, all very positive. In fact, if you think about the criteria for selection and dismissal, you see it kind of on both sides as well. Because in the beginning, they said they hired him from their national scholarship program, invested in his success. Then he designs I think it's called the Spasmodica. He designs a shoe that's a huge failure. And once he's done that, he has to go back and talk to the boss. And Alec Baldwin character doesn't talk about creativity or greatness. He just keeps talking about the same thing over and over again as they walk. What is that? What does he keep saying to Drew? What's that?
Money.
Money. How much we're losing? $972 million. I think he said that actual number like 3 times. It's like $1 billion. It's the operating budget of a small country, right? Think back to that slide where the person's thinking about profits and money, right? Afterwards, it's all about money and the losing of money. I'm incapable. I don't have the language of failure. They're walking around. At some point when they're walking around, though, we see an example of an activity the company's engaged in. It could be considered maybe CSR or CSV. Did anybody notice that while they were walking around on the balcony? What the activity they were engaged in? Not the basketball team. Yeah. The global environmental, it's sweet people. We're going to save the planet, but get caught. Now, would you characterize that as more of an Archie Carroll, being a good corporate citizen, philanthropy approach? Or do you think about it as more of an integrated, dealing with the business model, profit, CSV approach? The Global Environmental Watchdog Project. You're going to have to do this on the exam. I'm going to give you an exam and say, what is this CSR or CSV? You should practice with this one. Who wants to take a guess? Do it. You got it. Biscuit for the biscuit. You got it. CSR. Because it's philanthropy. They run out of money. It's gone. That's the whole point of Carroll. That's Porter and Kramer's biggest criticism of Carroll's model is that when companies engage in philanthropy like that, it's not sustainable. It's not, they're not doing it because it's part of the business. Right? The Global Environmental Watchdog Project is this. Now, if you think about the leadership mechanisms, actually, we can even think about the McKinsey report a little bit here. During and after the crisis, the thing that was least helpful, that leaders were doing the most, that was least helpful. Does anybody remember what that particular, from the very first paragraph of that report? You can use your own language if you want to, not, you don't remember the exact words. During the financial crisis and shortly thereafter. Yes?
Monitoring individual performance.
Monitor, exactly, yeah. Monitoring individual performance. Essentially, kind of pulling a John Stump. Hey, what happened with the bank? Oh, I don't know, it's the staff's fault. Here you've got a CEO of money. Clearly, a recent college graduate is not going to be the entire reason that a shoe fails. But when the shit hits the fan, he used that phrase in the video, right? He blamed Drew. He focused on his individual performance. And if you think about reaction to crisis, brings the leader's values to the surface. It's all about profits, but if we think about the role modeling aspect of this, he's telling everyone else in the organization, kind of like Jeff Skilling or John Stump, blame others and don't take responsibility. All right, all that in one quick video. So let's, I'm actually going to take a little bit of this down. I'm going to pause the recording so that those who come to class get the full value. That's kind of what I'm all about today. All right, so we're going to play a little game. It's the reason that we're not recording this, by the way, is that it's not really ready for prime time. I got it and started working on it. I couldn't quite get it ready, but it's good enough. But it's not one I want to actually record. So let's pull it up. Let's hit present. Got music. Right, the Family Feud game that I found. Woo-hoo! That music is going to drive you crazy. No, hey, stop. All right. The 4 levels of Carroll's Pyramid CSR. I think I hit too many returns. Anyway, the macro is supposed to just go away. It's agonizing. All right, here we go. So Carroll has a pyramid of corporate social responsibility. What's one of the levels of Carroll's pyramid of CSR? Yes. The following the law. We got the sound bar all the time in class. That would be kind of fun. I saw some more hands. Yes. Get philanthropy. Giving back. All right. Yes, sir. Being ethical. And the most basic, the first thing you got to do, make the Monday economic. Awesome. These, how fun this is? All right. Awesome. All right. The 4 key participants in the securitization food chain. I couldn't get rid of this 5. There's nothing there. The 4 big boxes in securitization, one of them is CDOs. The CDOs are created by who? Investment banks are the ones who cobble it together. They buy the mortgage streams and they create the CDOs. What's another part of the securitization food chain? Yes, sir.
Investors.
Investors, the ones who have all that money. They need the banks to come up with a way to get them a better rate of return. Yes. The home buyers who want to get the mortgages to begin with. And then back row.
Consumer bank.
The lenders, yes, the consumer banks. It's cheers all around. Where sometimes people got put into predatory loans that they couldn't pay back. Oh, we don't like that. No, that would be terrible. Right? After the crisis, financial crisis increased commissions was all like, I think I should have the sound bar all the time. All right, let's go to the next. The 3 key general categories of things regulated by the Sarbanes-Oxley Act is 50 rid of the 4 out of 5. But what kinds of companies generally are regulated by Sarbanes-Oxley? Yes. Public companies that have stock in the open market that people are buying because there's the lack of transparency of the financials. Now, within those public companies, there were additional penalties and responsibilities. Who within the companies got additional regulation from Sarbanes-Oxley? Within the companies. Yes. The board of directors and management. That's correct. And of course, the reason we know this is that boards like the Enron board and management were self-dealing, putting money in their own pockets. Oh, like that. Is that what happened to Enron stock? Come on, this is better than just sitting there, right? Come on. All right, one more. What another big kind of organization, professional association, was regulated by Sarbanes-Oxley? Yes. The accounting firms themselves will do the auditing. All right. Let's keep going. All right. All right. Shine's leadership mechanism. That's why I had to erase the board. All right. There's only 5. So now that we've already talked about it, you guys should have the tips of your fingers. What's one of them? Yes.
Role modeling.
Role modeling. Excuse me, the wall. What's another different person? We just talked about. How about over here? Somebody in this sector. What's one of them? You just talked about it. All right. Well, this is practice for your exam. Open note exam.
Reaction crisis.
Reaction to crisis. Very good. All right. Yes, sir. Yes. Allocation of rewards. Good enough for that. The bonuses, etc. Attention, the thing you talk about, the things that you mentioned, like in the movie clip we just saw. And there's one last one. See, this is prepping you. You've got to. That question pops up on exam 3. Yes.
Criteria for selection and dismissal.
That's right. Criteria for selection and dismissal. Woo! All right. The 3 ways to create shared value. So in the article Creating Shared Value, there were 3 main sections, which means, of course, we don't need any of these. It looks like this should be easy to edit, but it's not. So anyway, there were 3 main sort of chapters. So 3 ways to create shared value. Now, one of them, they talked about CK Prahalad. Does that ring any bells? What section of the article did they talk about CK Prahalad? Reconceiving products and markets. Very good. I'm going to give you a cheer. All right. That's sir.
Enabling local cluster development.
I know it sounds like a delicious candy bar, but it only has some chocolate and peanuts. Local cluster development. Now, this is along with the second one. The key concept that you guys need to remember is that Freeman and Ricardo talk about globalization. They talk about anywhere in the world, travel, do all the things. Sometimes local matters. Then you have your hand up for the second one. Redefining value, redefining productivity in the value chain. Once again, simply chasing the cheapest price around the globe isn't enough. If we start counting, which is the whole Porter and Kramer thing, and measuring those externalities, sometimes local might be better. Walmart might decide it's actually cheaper and better to buy local blueberries than to bring them up from Central America. All right. Oh, I think everybody deserves a cheer up. All right. Now here's another place where it's kind of messed up. So I'm going to try again. So the first point, right, management crisis introduced was then there were 8 more. You would think that I should be able to get them all onto one slide, but somehow I couldn't get these to work. So the challenge, of course, is, and if I toggle back and forth through 2 slides, the music keeps playing on and on, you'll kill me. So I'm not going to do that. So let's just, I'll quickly share with you, right? In addition to the fact that it was avoidable, the government failed to trade. The government agencies had the power to regulate, but did not. Yes, sir.
What is the question for this one again?
The Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, the 9 bullet points. We're going to hit it again. I'm going to go through the slide deck. So this is just for fun. Aren't you having fun? Yeah. Fun like this. Although the failure of regulation, they could have regulated and they didn't. That wasn't very good. The corporations had a failure of corporate governance. They could have maintained better reserves, they could have had more risk management, but they didn't. It was bad. There's lack of transparency. You heard Hank Paulson talk about this in the movie clip that we watched. Complexity is the enemy of transparency. It was hard for anyone to know what was going on. And then finally, the government was ill prepared. They knew there was going to be a problem. They didn't know it was going to be mortgages. And Hank Paulson talked about that as well. A black mark for the government that should have done better. All right, here's our last one. It'll be sad for it to go. Oh, so the last 4. So now that I've given you the first 4. Okay. Oh yeah, this. So I think what happens is I shouldn't have put a return in there. I think that's the problem. Because it takes like watching paint dry. Come on. There it is. All right. That one. So what was another, toward the end of the financial, another one of those bullet points about why we had the financial crisis? An element that contributed to the financial crisis. Doesn't have to be exact. General category. What about something that maybe the regulation of it was banned in the year 2000? Remember that? Yeah. Derivatives. Here we are. Right? Private agreements negotiated by professionals according to Alan Greenspan. They don't need regulation. Oops. What's another one? Were all the mortgages really good, nice mortgages? What happened? What were some of them called that weren't so good? Subprime mortgages. There was collapsing mortgage lending standards. Mortgage. I can't even spell. Well, this really is great for time. Along with that, there was the predatory lending, the breakdown in ethics. Of course, the institutional investors thought they were buying AAA credits. Who gave them the AAA rating? The rating agencies, who were getting paid, but they didn't really do their job either. It was a problem. The economy was a loser. They got slammed with that break. Don't do that anymore. All right. That's all I got. One day it will be ready for prime time. All right, so let me go back to the Zoom recording. All right, so we're back. You're watching at home. You missed an incredibly fun Family Feud. Really, probably the best, most fun anyone had all week. All right, so let's do our exam 3 review. Share slides. Oh. So we have sheep, lies, field, seed, blue. Now we're going to think about our flavors of corporate social responsibility. We've got delicious lime. We've got tangy lemon. Let's think about the ones that we talked about and did some readings. First of all, Milton Friedman, the social responsibility of business. Put Milton Friedman here. He's got some glasses, a bald head. Kind of cranky, not happy. He wrote his article in 1970. Right? The role of the social responsibility of business is to make a profit, and that's it. The role and responsibility of the corporate executive is to maximize returns to shareholders. With returns, I mean money. Corporate executive, if she or he decides to write a big fat check build a playground, as a global watchdog, whatever, it's like they're taxing the shareholders or even taking their money away from them, stealing. If using the cloak of social responsibility, people's over investing in the local community because it's a really good thing, but they're really just trying to get better employees and improve the government, they're actually lying. Milton Friedman, that's a hot take. There he is. Now, this is the shareholder rights approach. So what you can see on the exam is I will use the phrase Milton Friedman's shareholder rights approach. I'll be very clear. Right? You got the court, you generate the money, goes to the shareholders, who then decide if they want to freely give to the community. But if we think about the delicious lime flavored flavor of corporate social responsibility, this is a very deontological approach. Because the right thing to do is a very rights-based approach. The shareholder rights, there are no exceptions. The shareholders have the right, you shouldn't take it from them, you shouldn't trick them. Not opposed to charity per se, right? It's fine for individual shareholders to do it, but it's not. So this is a deontological approach. Now, we go from delicious lime to tangy lemon. Archie Carroll, he looks a little happier there. He's even less hair. He's more bald, but he's got his pleasant demeanor. No glasses for Archie Carroll. He's just got a smile. There he is. All the old bald white guys here. Sorry, guys. All right, but Archie Carroll, in his 1991 report, comes up and says, hey, you know what? There's a pyramid of corporate. So this is what I see companies actually doing. They make the money. Milton Friedman's like, I like it. They obey the law. Milton Friedman likes that too. They have ethics, which is always good, utility, rights, and justice. But then they engage in philanthropy, and Archie Carroll's CSR approach, corporate social responsibility approach. They give back because they're a good corporate citizen. There is a duty to give back. It is charity. It is voluntary, not integrated into the business model. It's after you've already made your money. And it's a stakeholder rights approach. Now it's rights, stakeholder rights. But here you've got the corp. They have a duty to the shareholders, but also the employees, the community, suppliers, competitors. In order to manage all that, they have to balance. They're redistributing, they have benefits and they're giving back. So it's also deontological, but the duty to give back and to redistribute the benefits is a justice approach. They're both deontological. Now there's the quick overlay of Carroll's moral and immoral management and Kohlberg's post-conventional and pre-conventional. I don't have any questions about the middle, but I may ask you if, the manager locks the fire escape so knows that people might die, you would clearly choose immoral management as that particular activity. Now, if I put triple bottom line, I should have put it, well, I'll come back. All right, so here we are, tangy lemon, stakeholder rights. All right, they're also deontological. It's a duty to give back, balancing duties among the stakeholders. So we're going to call this a stakeholder rights approach. I think the questions on the exam I think pretty much I say Carroll's corporate social responsibility approach. And that's this one. It involves giving back, expecting nothing in return. Now, the triple bottom line, slides are a little out of order. We get to the year 2000. We've been counting money very carefully for a long time, but now we have the ability to measure, to set goals, to look at outcomes, to measure. And this means that we can start to have not only the financial, the profits, we can set goals and measure impact on people, the social part. And, there's a nice tree, the environment. Call that the planet if we want to have nice alliteration between all the P's. And if we're thinking about outcomes and measurement, this doesn't sound very deontological. This sounds more teleological to me. This sounds like we're going to decide what the right thing for a company to do by measuring the outcome. And that's what happens here. I don't know if this is tangerine or orange. This flavor of corporate social responsibility. Porter and Kramer. There seems to be a high correlation to baldness and glasses and opining about business. There's Porter. Kramer's got a good head of hair. It's all kind of gray. There's Kramer. I think he's wearing glasses too. Porter and Kramer. And you're all thinking I should become a caricature artist with my music skill. Right. Creating shared value. We're going to create win-win scenarios. Value on both sides of the equation, both for the stakeholders, for the company, and for the stakeholders. It's not philanthropy. Right? The big three, we talked about this during Family Feud. Reconceiving products and markets. This is the Prahalad piece. This is the biomass stove. This is Steel Lorenz and Pesa Mobile Banking. It's very much not charity. It is creating new products that didn't exist before for markets that were being overlooked. Redefining productivity of the value chain. Instead of just chasing the cheapest price, specializing in training and not worrying about, we're going to partner, we're going to have some collaboration, we're going to teach people how to grow more better coffee. We're going to find women who don't have jobs in rural India, we're going to make them our product representatives in those small communities. Right? Walmart's going to say, maybe I don't want to ship stuff halfway around. Maybe I want to do things that allow us to save energy, which also falls to the bottom line. Local clusters. Sometimes, maybe they shouldn't be so spread out. Maybe we want to put businesses near each other, because that's going to create more open and transparent markets. Again, have better outcomes. So, here, I want you to be sure to bookmark this chart. There's at least 2 questions on the exam where I say Porter and Kramer say the following correctly belong in the category of CSR. And you see all these things here. What if I took some of these and put them over here? Could you differentiate them in your multiple choice? You're going to have to do that a couple of times. So if you have this chart handy, you will know to grab that for that question. So, delicious orange. And now, when we talk about creating shared value, this is teleological. It is based on utility, creating positive utilities on both sides of the transaction. Now, here's the cool part. We're going to come over here to Milton Friedman and take the company profit part, and we're going to emphasize that, right? Because the activities we engage in that make the world a better place, that help the environment, that help people, also have to be part of our business model. But we're going to come over here to Carol, and we're going to say, but it's not just going to be, it's not Friedman's old, narrow view of capitalism. We're going to bring the stakeholders over here as well. And then instead of having a bunch of rules that tell us what we should be doing, we're going to measure whether it's a good right outcome by looking at the outcomes. Now, Mosaic changed the name of its program. This was slide actually just from last year. Now it's called the Mosaic Helps International Project. It's the same project. So the video you saw is now labeled, and all the questions will say Mosaic Helps International. But obviously, there's some similarities, right? We go to some developing parts of the world where people aren't having a very good time. Merck says people are getting river blindness. We're going to donate, give it away, not expecting anything in return. Here, Mosaic's going to go in, work collaboratively with local farmers, but here it's not, they say very specifically, it's not here. Low interest loans, we're basically creating a new group of customers. Profit, eventual profit is part of this, why they're doing this. This is creating shared value. This is corporate social responsibility. All right, so the response to the financial crisis. Let's put one thing you're going to be able to do is differentiate between what happened in the Sarbanes-Oxley Act Similarities and differences. So Sarbanes-Oxley, 2002, Dodd-Frank, 2010. They're both command responses. They add regulations, they take away the free choices of individuals in the marketplace on certain things. Now, this was the response to the 2002 crisis. This is the response to the 2008 crisis. We talked about this in the Family Feud, right? The three big categories of things: additional regulations, public companies generally, in their financial reports, and then more specifically with additional penalties and regulation, the boards of directors and management, and then obviously the accounting firms. All kinds of new regulations. Now, very important to remember, it has nothing to do with derivatives and nothing to do with banks. Right? And that's important because, I think I just said all that. This is the deck you have. The Glass-Steagall Act, which was from 1934, the Banking Act, as a result of the Great Depression and the Great Market Crash, was repealed by the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act. Now, this is one thing that students always seem to get confused about, so let me make it very clear to you. The question I'm going to ask you is, what is the result of the legislation? The result, Sarbanes-Oxley supports a more command approach to regulating public goods. Government regulations coming into place is more supporting a command response. If you take away regulations, so the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act unregulates the banks, takes it away. That is supporting, even though it's government action, a more free market approach. I've had students say, well, that's government action. No, it was government action to remove regulation. So be sure that you're clear on that. We also know derivative products were unregulated either. The banning, the regulation of derivatives was banned as well. So now we've got a sitch. And here's the situation. We've got investors sitting over here. They need to make money in this down market. They need to beat 1%. They're sitting on fat stacks of cash. They go to their partners in sometimes crime, the investment banks. And they say, man, come up with something. Create a product. We're willing to give you some of this money. We want to be able to get returns, maybe risky, not so risky. And the investment banks say, we'll create some CDOs for you. We'll go to our buddies at the rating agencies. They'll say, oh, that's a AAA. No, we're great. We have to get there first. We have to think about what was it like under the Glass-Steagall Act. This is the old model. Mortgage securitization. Local banks, because they were banned from doing work with investment banks, the lenders, you want to buy a house, you're a home buyer, you go to the bank, they loan you some money, their own money, you pay them back. They make money. The business model is principal and interest. But that changed with the repeal of the banking regulations. As I said in one of the video clips, it was off to the races. So now the home buyers, the investment banks say, hey, we want to buy those mortgages. And what do I mean by buy a mortgage? I mean buy the payment streams. All these people who own homes, home prices haven't gone down. They're never going to go down. Here's home prices. All this money's flowing into CDOs. They're paying back out. And it's also kind of important to remember this. It wasn't a scam in the beginning. It was a great way to free up capital. There were benefits. Home buyers, people who had not been able to get a mortgage before, could now get a mortgage. Build equity, live the American dream. Right? Lenders, because the risk was taken away, and they moved to a fee model. Every single mortgage they originated, they got a fee. Now they can more easily serve their customers. Customers are happy. The investment banks can use these, their innovative financial models, including derivatives, because remember, on top of the CDOs, we stacked credit default swaps, synthetic, CDOs, $50 trillion of debts on the market. For the institutional investors, which is my retirement fund, my insurance company, they get to get better rates of return. But one thing that we know is that during the time, the big run-up in the housing market, subprime loans, which used to only be 1 in 20, moved up to be 1 in 5, 20% plus of all mortgage loans. Some of the CDOs were full of loans by people who wouldn't be able to pay their loans back if a recession hit or housing prices went down. Well, guess what happened? And some of those CDOs were wiped out completely. Now, people were putting the loans they didn't understand. Why? Because the banks offered incentives, allocation of rewards to the bankers who put people into these subprime products. They got bigger bonuses. The complexity, the enemy of transparency, according to Hank Paulson, masks the increasing percentage of risk. When the rating agencies weren't up to speed, didn't keep up, they enjoyed making their money as well. So it all worked great until it all collapsed. We already went through these on the Family Feud slides, but here's the important to remember that it's avoidable. The government could have regulated but didn't. That the corporations and banks could have figured it out internally and didn't. There was excessive borrowing and lack of transparency. The government was not well prepared. It was ill prepared. The breakdown of the economy was the predatory lending, low and no documentation loans. I set my salary on a piece of paper and got a mortgage. OTC derivatives, and the failures of credit rating agencies. So what do? We have a response, and this is the Dodd-Frank Act. Now, this is the response to the 2008 crisis, and basically here we finally get around to regulating, putting some constraints on derivatives, banks, mortgages, etc. And that's the command response to the market failure in 2008. So we finished up our module last Thursday. We talked about the fact that psychological distance played a big role in both Enron and the accounting fraud, and the energy contracts really didn't feel like money. The fact that people's retirement funds, they didn't realize the impact on people. And the same thing with mortgage securitization, right? The banks used to know who owned the homes, the lenders. Who was involved was completely attenuated. The stakeholders didn't know each other. And the synthetics, it really didn't feel like it. It felt like a casino. And everybody kept winning year after year after year, and quit asking a lot of questions. So psychological distance played a big role. And then we also have Shine's leadership mechanisms, which we went through talking about the Elizabethtown movie clip, what a leader talks about, how they react to crisis, role modeling, etc. Think about it. Attention is the talk. Reaction to crisis brings the true values to the service. Remember John Stumpf from Wells Fargo? Yeah, talk. Blaming others was the result of that one. The walk, role modeling, the allocation of rewards. If you give people bonuses and raises, other people are going to start doing whatever they did to get them. And then finally, who gets hired and fired? This drives company culture more than anything else. The McKinsey report after the crisis, monitoring individual performance, not helpful. What's going to be more helpful? Inspiring others and defining expectations and rewards. The category, of course, for this survey of 700 people, men and women, was that women actually do a better job with that, and there's not clear strategies, as you can take a quick look at that report. And I ended it with this, the McKinsey report on diversity, and this is about inclusivity and diversity. This is going to be about environmental impact. This could be about supply chain. If a company wants to, something to happen within its culture and they want to get some things done, the Shine mechanisms are built into this as well. It starts at the top, what you pay attention to, what you do, role model, allocation of rewards, hold managers to account, also criteria for selection and dismissal. Make sure the efforts are sufficiently resourced and supported. All right, that's the end of that. I'll stop the share here for just a second. So let's remember some things. First of all, week 9 quiz is due tonight. Want those points? Do it. Don't do the practice one. Go back to week 9 and do the one for the points. Your exam 3 is going to be available on Thursday between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. There are 61 questions. The first is the Carlson Honor Code question. Work alone. You have all your stuff, but don't help anybody. Don't get help from anybody. Pick a place. I'll be here. You want to come to class? Have a quiet room with good internet. On Friday, December the 12th, our first Canvas discussion forum, your original post and your 2 replies if you want full credit. That needs to be done by Friday night before 11:59. I'll leave it open. You can get partial credit afterwards, but those of you who want the points, you're all there for the taking. The following week is our group ethics essay project week. On Tuesday of that week, if you want to participate in a peer exercise, if you come to class with some of your teammates and you have a PDF of your rough draft, I will facilitate trading it with another group so that if you come, you will get to see another group's paper and give them feedback, and someone will give you feedback. It's voluntary, but if the group wants to come and do that, that would be great. I will help facilitate it. I'm still figuring that out. Not required. Thursday of next week, so a week from Thursday, is the day before the paper's due. During our class time, I'll be here. So you're with your group, and you're like, we're almost ready to turn it in. We got like 3 questions. Like, what are we going to do? I'm here for you. Come, ask me a question. I'll look at your paper. I'll say, do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. I'll be it's generally helpful. I'm not going to grade it, but if you need a consultation, I'll be here for you. If class doesn't work, you need a quick Zoom call with me or something. I'm setting a couple of those up right now. I have a lot of classes, but I'm here for you. Friday the 19th of November is when the one person in each group will upload the final draft of that. And then we're almost done. So the next couple of weeks, what I'll do is I'll create a spreadsheet for you where you can plug in your 3 exam scores, your participation points to date. You're guessing how many points you're going to get on the discussion forums. Obviously, we won't have your group essay grade yet. It takes me a few weeks to get that done. I'll give you the median from last year. You can plug that in. You can start to see where your grade is at. And then there's the second discussion forum. I think there's a couple more quizzes. And then the last 2 days of class, the Monday and Tuesday of December, that last week, will be exam 4, which is not a final exam. It'll be like the other exams. Mostly on the last section. This having 5 questions from 3, 5 questions from 2, and 5 questions from 1. So we're getting close, but anyway, any questions? You guys feel like you know what you need to do? All right, so good luck on exam 3. And I'll see you guys next week.
I